Good morning. This is Tim Carter, Superintendent of Wilson Central School District, and this is the elementary virtual parent town hall meeting. We're going to get started about 2 minutes after 9, and just to give everybody a chance to log in and get started. Good morning. This is Tim Carter, Superintendent of Wilson Central Schools. It is right now 9 o'clock on my computer clock. We're going to get started with the elementary virtual town hall meeting at about 2 minutes after 9 to give more people a chance to log in. Good morning. My name is Tim Carter. I'm Superintendent of Wilson Central School District. This is the elementary virtual parent town hall meeting. This is our third for the elementary school. And really the purpose of these is to communicate what our plan is for reopening school for the 2020-2021 school year, and also giving an opportunity for parents to ask questions and listen in. So welcome to the forum. If you have any questions that you need specific answers to that I don't answer throughout this conversation or I'm not able to, please call the school number 751-9399, which is our main question number for anything related to COVID. And we will, if we can't answer it, we'll direct your question to somebody who can answer it. And then more importantly, if we need to research it, we'll get back to you. So if that number is not picked up, there is a answering machine attached to it that's checked really frequently. It actually goes directly to Mrs. Pavan, the district clerk, and she will answer that question and get back to you. So in the office with me is Mrs. Pavan, and she's going to assist with fielding questions as they start popping up. Rules of engagement, this is set, so I have an opportunity to speak to you. It is interactive in the fact that you can ask questions. To ask questions, you can do one of two, three things. Call that 751-9399 number, which we'll put that up at the end of the conversation. Or at the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little chat button that says say something. You can type your question in there, comment, whatever you want to, and hit the triangle. Mrs. Pavon's there to read the question to me. If you have a comment or something you want to let the district know, or if there's more information you need on, just that's the interactive piece of this. Couple of assumptions. I'm assuming that anyone who's connected today has read at least the shortened version of the district's reopening plan or the 40-page document, which is online. If you haven't, that's okay, but there are a lot of those answers in there. The other assumption I have is that there are people on here for the first time that haven't heard anything, so I am going to go through the plan in that brief way I did the last 2 times, which means it takes me about 15 minutes to go through it. But then I stop as questions come about each section. And then I have a list of topics that I want to make sure I cover for the elementary group. And if I get stopped by a question, I'll just go back to my list and start where I left off. And that's okay. You can either wait to the end to ask questions, or even right now. As soon as you pop up, as soon as the question pops up, I'll stop and answer. So that's the rules of engagement. So beginning this conversation, I'll start with the cleaning and sanitizing. So cleaning and sanitizing will be done on a nightly basis at the elementary school. Kids in their own class cohort will be the only ones using their classroom. So we will follow the cohort classroom sanitizing schedule based upon the CDC guidance. The Center for Disease Control has given guidance about much of what we've been doing for reopening, and they have a set plan for how you go about cleaning and sanitizing the room during this time of COVID. So Mr. Harmon, our Director of Facilities, has worked with each one of the cleaners, the custodians, to establish what that plan looks like, and has come up with not only written directions, but training about how to clean and sanitize following CDC guidelines. Each one of our buildings are broken up into sections. So the elementary is broken up into sections, and the cleaner and the custodian are assigned to each section of the building. That building section will be cleaned every single night, and the employee, the cleaner, will sign off that they have and they know what the CDC guidelines are, and they've cleaned and sanitized that area that evening. And they'll sign and then date it that they completed. And that gives them the accountability they've done it. It gives us the accountability that it's actually been cleaned and sanitized. And more importantly, if the Department of Health comes and asks us for documentation based upon making sure our buildings are clean on a particular night, we have that for you. So that's the cleaning and sanitizing in the evening for each child. During the day, we have custodians on board, and they will continually on a schedule do frequent high-touch areas, door handles, rails, all those high-touch areas that students may put their hands on as they're walking down the hall, coming in and out of classroom, things like that. And our custodians have a schedule for making sure that that is continually done at the elementary school. So that's the cleaning and sanitizing. And if you have any questions about that, please go ahead and put it in. We're going to get into the health and safety measures now. And the first health and safety measures is that our students and parents are going to be asked to perform a health screening prior to coming to school. So on our website will be a web page listing elementary, middle, and high school. And when you press on that, all of the teachers at the elementary school will be listed. So they'll be by grade. So you'll press on elementary school, third grade, and then the 4 third grade teachers come up, and then the parent presses on that teacher, and then the health screen comes up. And the health screen asks questions, yes or no, does your child have a temperature of 100.0 or higher? And if you check yes, your child will stay home that day. You need to actually, and I'll get into all that mechanism, but the health screen, you need to check their temperature, actually physically take their temperature, and then yes or no, do they have a fever of 100.0 or higher? Do they have a cough? Yes or no. Shortness of breath? Yes or no. Fatigue? Yes or no. Muscle aches? Yes or no. Body aches? Yes or no. Headache? Loss of taste, smell, sore throat, congestion, runny nose, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea? Yes or no for each one of those things. It's a similar screen that the teachers and administrators, and including myself, we take every single day prior to coming into school. And for the administrators, I check the administrators to make sure that have done their screening. And then the building administrators will check to make sure that the teachers have their screening done. And then in the morning, when the teachers are taking attendance for the students that are in front of them, if they're in front of them, and they'll have a list of, they'll be able to see the screen. And if anyone checked yes to any one of those buttons and they're in front of them, they're going to be sent to the nurse's office. Or if they didn't have a health screen at all, they'll be sent to the nurse's office to have that screening done. And we're asking that, part of that goal that I've been indicating is that for us as a school, we need to work together as a school community. Our parents, students, staff, teachers, administrators, all of us need to work together so our schools can open up as normal as possible, whatever that normal is. So for the elementary school, it's pre-K through 5. You have two choices. You either can choose to distance learn. We do have some parents at the elementary school that have chosen to be their child to be distance learn, and then you could choose to be in person. Those are the only two choices that we gave our parents, and that was based upon a number of things, but also a belief that we have that our youngest kids need to be in school to learn on a daily basis. They can't be home. Now, we would love to have them all in, but we just can't at this time. And to establish that ability to have as many people as possible in the building is we're using polycarbonate barriers, which will be affixed and are affixed to every desk. Those barriers are in. So that first step, that first hurdle is over. We have them all here. We have enough for every desk at the elementary school. So those barriers have 3 sides to them. They have a right side, a left side, and a front, and they extend up off the desk 22 inches tall, which is well over the top of my head. It is clear plastic. Mr. Diodati has sent some pictures out through Class Dojo. If you did not get to see what those barriers look like, please call, and you are not connected to Class Dojo, call the 751-9399 number, and Mrs. Pavon will get you in touch with the elementary school, or call the elementary school directly, and they'll show you how to get on that list, or they'll email you what the pictures are. Now, the pictures that Mr. Diodati took were those screens right out of the box. So if you look at them and say, well, they look kind of cloudy, it's because there's a clear plastic film over the top of them. When we actually affix them to the desks, they get Velcroed down to the desks, that clear plastic film will come out and they'll be crystal clear. Those desk dividers, desk shields, screens, barriers, however you want to call them, those will be sanitized and cleaned every single night. So that's how we can establish and bring as many people as possible into the school. The guidance said 6 feet of separation, / meaning or using a barrier. So we put barriers on every desk, which allows our students, when they're doing their work, sitting forward, writing on a piece of paper, sitting forward, using their computer, their Chromebook, it allows them to take the mask off and take a mask break. And they can do frequent mask breaks. When they sit back, stand up, move around, mask needs to go on. So each individual teacher gets to determine how long the mask breaks are going to be, but you can expect your child to be able to be wearing masks throughout the day, especially when they're moving around. But if they're leaning forward during their work, it can give them an opportunity to take their mask off. I'm assuming that most of the students are going to just take the mask off and place it in front of them. Some are going to dangle them from their ear. That's entirely up to the individual student. But like I said, one of the things you can help us with is, especially pre-K, kindergarten 1, 2, is practicing with your child putting on and taking off their mask. If you really haven't gone anywhere yet, and over the summer, that's one of the things you can really assist us with and help us with that partnership is have your child put a mask on and wear it for an extended period of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Get used to having that mask on when you're walking through the hall and things like that. It is something that it takes a little bit to get used to. Even for adults, it's taken me a little bit to get used to where, when I get up and I move out of my office and put my mask on, it takes a little bit to get used to wearing it for an extended period of time. So that's beginning the health and safety. We talked about the health checks. I talked about the masks. Social distancing. Our students will social distance throughout the day. That's part of the conversation we're going to be having with them is that knowing what that 6 feet of separation is. Anytime there's a line bathroom, anytime there's a line in the cafeteria, we have spots either on the tray or on the floor, on the wall, where children can gauge that 6 feet of separation using those markers. But when walking in the hall, they're just going to have to get used to 6 feet of separation, social distancing as they're moving around in the building. We have directional markers on floors and on walls that say walk this way, so students can be walking single file as close to the wall as possible without touching it, and then being social distance. So our hallways will allow a class to pass single file on the right-hand side and a class to pass single file on the left-hand side going to cafeteria and still keep 6 feet of separation between them. The students movement around the building will be limited. We are going to use the cafeteria in another location for lunches. Our medical director has indicated that the barriers are fine inside the classroom, that during eating and prolonged social distance or prolonged mask being off for lunch, they do not recommend eating lunch in the classroom. You need to maintain not only the barriers, but 6 feet of separation between the students while eating. And that's what the guidance says, so that's what we have to follow. Our medical director also indicated that it's not a good idea to be moving these barriers around because every time you move them, they got to be sanitized. And that's not something we have the ability to do throughout the day. So we're going to leave the barriers in the classroom. Students will walk to the cafeteria, social distancing the whole time. There will be social distance in the cafeteria, 6 feet apart. We'll have markers on the tables, and we're going to use the cafeteria and one other location. All other specialists will come to the classroom. If it's a nice day, phys ed can go outside and follow the guidance of 12 feet. I know the teachers will take them outside for recess because that is something they allow them to do. The equipment has to be sanitized on a nightly basis. So that's that part of the health and safety. We are going to have, once the students come in, and I'll get into transportation in a second, once they come in, they're going to use the usual doors at the elementary school, the back door for the buses to come in, and then the front door where the circle is for parent transportation. Mr. Diodati is well aware that there might be an increase in the amount of parents who are going to be dropping kids off. So there is going to be traffic flow issues, and we're going to make sure we do our best to address them on the first day of school. And with everything, I need everybody to be flexible and understand the fact that we're doing all of this for the first time. So we do our absolute best to make sure that there's no glitches on the first day. So after the students enter into the building, the doors are going to be shut. Even in the morning, no one's going past the front doors. Our secure vestibule is the main entrance of the elementary school, and that is as far as any visitor will go in the building. The only people going past that front door will be for emergencies or if we have deliveries and contractors, and I'll talk about that in a second. So we have no parents moving past, no visitors moving past that front entrance, at least for the the time being. As soon as the guidance starts to lessen, then we'll slowly move back to normal. That'll be a on the moment type of decision. As soon as they lessen some of the restrictions, my job is to make sure as few people as possible have contact with the entire student population. So we're going to stop everybody at that front door. You won't be able to come into the section. If you're picking a child up, the child will be brought to you. And inside that vestibule with the bench, you can sit down and wait until your child is delivered to you, if it's a midday dismissal. So I know the kindergarten teachers are in the process of doing an orientation video. I'm sure they're going to talk about how that first day is going to look like in that video. And if not, Mr. Piedati will make sure that he gets that information out. That we are not going to have parents pass the front entrance for any student, including our kindergartners, on the first day of school. That's something that's really different for our entering kindergarten parents. But as soon as I allow you to go through that front door, you've just made contact with the entire school population. And therefore, if there's a positive case, you will be added to the contact tracing, and therefore you may have to be subject to quarantine or isolation. So we're not putting, or if you yourself are positive and don't know it, and end up having to take a COVID test and are found positive, and you were in that building on that day, now you've just subjected the entire population to possible exposure. So that's the reason why I'm not allowing anyone past the front doors on the elementary school or the middle school or the high school. Once the doors are shut, there's only one way in and out, and that's through the front entrance of the elementary school, where the secure vestibule is for all visitors. Any delivery people, if they're coming into the building to assist with deliveries, they need to take a COVID test. You will take their temperature right there. You have COVID screen, paper screens at at the entrance where deliveries are happening, and also at the main entrance. They have to take a COVID screen. Now, some of our delivery companies already have assured us and have given us documentation that they're having their employees do a COVID screen at their work. If that is the case, we take that as them having a COVID status, because if they said yes to anything, they wouldn't be in that truck driving. Be that what it may, we are still asking all deliveries, as much as possible, all deliveries are going to be contactless. Leave the deliveries outside on the loading dock, and our people are going to go out and get the deliveries and bring them back in. There's some we just can't do that way. FedEx, postal stuff and things like that. I don't want things like that destroyed. And we don't know exactly, the time that they come is different. Okay? So we have contacted all of the vendors that we use and asked them to make sure that they're screening their people, and if they're going to have to come into the building, they have to take a COVID test. If they're not screened. Okay, so that's the health screen, the front entrance, the facilities entrance. So part of our plan and the guidance from State Ed is to ensure that all kids, teachers, both at home and here in school, are trained in the proper hand hygiene techniques, respiratory hygiene, how to properly put on, don, and doff a mask. So put on and take off their mask, the importance of wearing a mask during certain situations. So all of those trainings are going to have to occur. There's about 5 videos we're going to have to show the students throughout the first, multiple times, I'm sure, throughout the first few days of school. And that being said, I'm going to talk about the beginning of school right now, because in order to get that training done in as easy a way as possible, we have changed the opening week of school. So we have put on the district website a student calendar that's different, that was revised at our last board meeting. And this is what it looks like. September 2nd was the original first day of teachers, for teachers to do superintendent conference day. And it's the usual day that I do my kickoff address, and then we move into administrators doing their first faculty meeting, and the teachers having a chance to work in the classrooms and get up and running for the year. Usually we can do that in one day, but because the remote model is still an option, so every elementary teacher is not only going to be working with the kids in person, they're also going to be working with the students remotely. And then there are also going to be days when your child has said yes to one of those, or you have said yes to one of those, and they're going to need to work remotely from home if they're able to. So that being, and I'll talk about what that looks like when I get to the learning section. So we've had to change the beginning of the school year, that first week, because I need to make sure that the teachers are up and have some running knowledge and have the ability to practice both that in-person and that remote instruction. So I have made, and the board has made, Tuesday, September 8th, a superintendent's conference day, and Wednesday, September 9th, is a superintendent's conference day. And then Thursday, September 10th, is the first day for all elementary students that are in person. Distance learning people aren't going to start on the 10th. The 11th is also a day for the in-person students at the elementary coming in. The first day the distance students are going to start and log in is going to be on September 14th, Monday, September 14th. That still gives us the prerequisite 180 days so we can get our student aid from New York State Department of Education. But it also gives us a chance to have the teachers on the 10th and 11th to work with the in-person kids on those number of things. What does appropriate social distancing look like, and how do I go about making sure I'm socially distanced when I'm up and moving around? Getting comfortable using the shield, donning and doffing your mask, showing all those training videos, all the ritual routine things that they need to do. The appropriate when you walk in the classroom, using hand sanitizer, when you sneeze, using a tissue when you sneeze or cough. If you don't sneeze or cough within a tissue, you need to use your arm. If you don't use your arm, we have to sanitize that area. But using the crook of your arm to make sure your nose and your mouth are covered if you don't have a mask on at that particular time. Even if you do have a mask on, making sure you cover your nose with a tissue, your mouth with a tissue, or your arm, to make sure all those things have to occur. And there's a number of videos that we have to show the students also. When you cough or you sneeze, you need to make sure you're hand sanitizing your hands every time after. So here are the proper hand sanitizing techniques. This is how long you need to do it. This is what it looks like. Making sure that you're following those guidelines. Getting used to the cafeteria line, going down the line with the tray and making sure you're staying apart from each other. All those things, it's going to be difficult, especially for our younger students, because sometimes they move about the classroom like an amoeba. They're all together. We're not going to be able to do that to start the school year. As the restrictions start to lessen, we'll be able to start lessening up on those restrictions. Our whole goal is to get back to normal as soon as possible. But again, the guidelines say this: I can do this right now, and we can open. As we get closer to the school year, if it changes, we'll change our guidelines. And as September and October, we're going to change our guidelines also. So I talked about that health screen, and I want to get into that health screening just a little bit, not the actual mechanics of the health screen, but also, more importantly, if at any time your child says yes to any one of those, or you say yes to any one of those symptoms, or if your child is in school and starts coughing, has a sore throat, goes down to the nurse's office, we have to treat it according to the New York State Department of Health guidance. We'll talk about that a little bit, because it's right now it's pretty stringent. And it's concerning for the school, it's concerning for parents right now. I'll talk about that as I go through this. So if your child says yes to any one of these symptoms, or you're giving the screen to your child and you mark yes for any one of these symptoms, your child needs to stay home that day. And I'll talk about what they need to do to come back in a second. If your child's in school and comes down with any of these symptoms, or has a fever, any of these symptoms, your child is going to be isolated in one of our isolation rooms in the clinic. You're going to get a call, and you're going to be asked to come get them, or send a family member to come get them. That child will be walked down to the the office released to you. We have some sanitizing and cleaning to do in the isolation rooms. Each one of those isolation rooms also has a air scrubber in it to make sure that any of the particles that are in there are also being, the air is being sanitized. That's the way I can say that. So now here's where the guidance comes from. If your child is sent home from one of these for one of these symptoms, or you check yes and say I can't send my, and that means your child can't come to school, you need to take your child to the healthcare provider, whether it be their immediate physician or a immediate care clinic. And as of right now, 9/29 of August 8th, the New York State Department of Health guidelines on this chart right now say if your child has a cough, fever, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle, body ache, headache, loss of taste, smell, sore throat, congestion, runny nose, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, that person needs to stay home or be sent home, isolated and sent home immediately, and inform the parent that they must seek medical attention and have a provider note saying that they can return and a negative COVID test. And that's to me where the most concerning part is, the and. So as of right now, that if your child has any one of these symptoms or is sent home with any of these symptoms, you need to take your child to the medical provider. The medical provider needs to write a note they can return, and the child's going to need to get a COVID test and have a negative test to return. Now, this guidance from the Department of Health is different from what CDC says. The CDC says that the child needs either a note or a negative COVID test, one or the other, not both. The Department of Health right now has taken a more stricter view of it and said they need both. And we follow our guidance from State Ed and the Department of Health. Now, in my last conversation with the Department of Health, which was this past Tuesday in the afternoon, we had a meeting with them. They indicated that the governor's office needs to make that decision and needs to communicate to the Department of Health between the two to decide if they're going to they stick with a note from your doctor and a COVID test, or a note from your doctor or a COVID test. It's a little less restrictive. The doctor may say you can return. I'll keep parents posted. There is a chart from the Department of Health that I have decided not to put up on the website until I know for sure if they're going to change it. I'll let parents know. I'm sure we're going to have more of these as we get closer to school. But I will send this chart out through our email system, Blackboard Connect, post it to our website, and send it out social media as soon as I know that this is the actual chart that we're going to be using. And it kind of gives both staff and student what happens if this happens, when they can return, all sorts of things. So more information to come. I have a question that came along, so I'm going to stop right there.
For new parents to the school, what time does school start and end?
Great question. So off the top of my head, because there's 3 different buildings, I don't have the immediate time for elementary. If one of the parents on here elementary, or if there's a staff member on there, if you could give that information in the chat. If not, I'm going to say, Mrs. Rushford, please just call that 751-9399 or call the elementary directly, and they'll give you that start and end time. I have a general idea when they start and end. I just don't want to give you the wrong information. So to be honest with you, I think it's best if you just get it. The other thing you can do, I'm sure it's on the website for the elementary school. No other questions? I'm going to keep going with my list. So we talked about health and safety. We've talked about student health screening, cleaning and sanitizing. I'm going to get into transportation now. So we're in the process of working on transportation. What our plan says in our opening document, that we are going to have our students enter the bus with masks. They're going to load from back to front for the elementary school. I know that the bus garage right now, and our transportation director is working on all those bus lists. We have to remove the students who have chosen to be distanced, and then we're working on the list for the students and making sure the runs are as even as possible so we can social distance as much as possible on the bus. So that being said, I can't tell you when you're going to get your phone call. It might be the night before or a couple days before, a text or email or phone call letting you know what time your child's being picked up. It's an ever-changing list right now. We have parents that have decided to transport and then they've changed their mind. So we had them off the list, now we're putting them back on. We have the opposite happening. So we're waiting for it to settle down a little bit, the phone calls and the changing of the list. And then we're going to start we'll do the finished processing of the routes, the pickup times and things like that. And then as soon as we have that, you'll be notified when that transportation happens. It says, will there be bus aids on the bus? We do not have bus aids on the bus. Some of our buses have, unless an individual student has that in their IEP, either an aide or a nurse. At least one of our buses has a nurse on it because that's what it has in IEP. But no, there is no, we haven't, and we don't have aides on our buses. Going on to transportation, continue with transportation, we have, so the students be health checked, they're picked up at the house, they'll load the bus from the back to the front. And I know there was a comment made about, a couple parents nervous about elementary students, especially the kindergarten students, being in the back of the bus. I understand, but I cannot have a student crossing another student that's sitting, so they need to load from the back to the front. When they get to the school, students will remain in their seats. We'll unload them from the front to the back. Our bus drivers are awesome. Meeting with them when they have their transportation meeting. I meet with all the bus drivers and go through all this guidance with them. But I know the bus garage themselves knows what the general practices are. And the bus drivers are going to have to be trained in all these things, just like the students and the parents and things like that. They're students and the teachers. So when they get to the bus gets to school, they'll unload from the front to the back. It won't be all the buses out at the same time, or 1-2 buses at a time. It will be a little bit of a slower morning. Now, our elementary buses are the same buses as our high school buses and middle school buses. They go out and do the high school, middle school run and drop the students off. Then they'll go back out and do the elementary run. They are stopping before going out they are going to stop. And prior to going out and do the elementary run, they're going to go through and sanitize the high frequently touched areas because that's what the guidance says you need to do. And we're going to go out and do the elementary run. And the bus garage has assured us that every bus will be sanitized every single night. So that's transportation. Going on to continuity of learning. So for our elementary school students, there was only 2 choices to make because one of our goals is to get as many of our students back into school as possible and as normal as possible. As I said a couple times, in our elementary parents and elementary students, the best possible way for that education to happen is to have as many people as possible in the classroom at a time. So students will be sitting at desks with shields or barriers between them and the person next to them. There will still be an element of social distancing. We are right now able to put the students that are scheduled to come in rows 3 feet apart. So they're still going to be 3 feet apart in barriers. When they're leaning forward during their work or typing on the computer, they can take their mask out. When they sit back or stand up, they're going to have to put their mask back on. And that'll be an ongoing conversation with the kids to remind them to do that. So there's two continuity of learning or instructional models. One is in person and the other one is distance. So many of our students are going to be doing both. Both in person and at home distance learning model. If the classroom teachers are using computers with the kids in class, there's going to be a mix of both synchronous and asynchronous type of instruction. So synchronous instruction means the student logs into the classroom while the teacher and the students are working. So there's going to be a number of that. I've asked teachers to prioritize that. Have the students log in. I want to see as many kids as possible log in. I would like, especially in the older grades, I want to be able to have everybody see each other. So, you've all done Google meetings or Google Hangout meetings or Zoom meetings at this point, because I don't know anyone who's been able to not get involved with that. I've done so many, I'm losing track of them. So I want there to be that community of learners. So even though the student may be looking this way and talk to the teacher, at least the kids at home are going to be able to see those students. Now, at the younger grades, that's going to be a lot more difficult, especially at the beginning of the year. So it's probably going to be more of the asynchronous learning, which means teacher sends out a document, a piece of an activity, or mails home an activity, or sends home an activity. And then I've asked each teacher that if you're going to send home a document, or you're going to electronically send home a document, you need to make sure that you're sending a video of yourself or someone showing them how to do that activity, so the student can continually look at it. Parent, whoever's watching them and working with them at home, is able to do both. Watch the video. The child watch the video more than one time, and then assist them in doing the work. I saw a question pop up.
For kids that are doing distance learning, how will phys ed, music, and art work?
Synchronously and asynchronously, the same way. Phys ed's going to be difficult. When our kids are going outside, they're not going to be able to go outside, at least with them. They can go outside in your backyard. I know Mr. Diodati has asked the teachers to create chunks of time when the child should be logging in, and chunks of time when they don't need to log in because they're at lunch or they're at recess or things like that. But all of the special area teachers, if phys ed is outside, obviously you're not going to be able to come to school and do phys ed outside. You'll be asked to do an activity. The child will be asked to do an activity at home. Sometimes, especially if the weather's, it's going to be a less active phys ed class. It'll be more of an in-person conversation about physical activity. So I'm expecting them to log in and do their specials the same way. Now, that supply list went home, and part of that supply list are some art supplies and things like that. So that's part of our responsibility and parents' responsibility is to make sure that we have the things that they can use and do. It's not going to look like regular art class. It's not going to look like regular music, what you're used to. And it's not going to look like normal phys ed. We are hoping to get to that point. There was a question.
In regards to the supply list, if name brand cleaning wipes can't be found, can I provide a store brand alternative?
I don't think there's a problem with that. If you want a definitive answer, you can certainly call school, but we don't have necessarily name brand all over the place. You're going to have a hard time finding wipes. I know many elementary classes have that on their supply list. And when I was an elementary teacher, I had it on the supply list. Right now, there's a shortage of all disinfectant wipes, so that's going to be when you can get them. Very few stores, unless you have some from stockpiled and you were able to grab them before they're all gone. But they're having trouble getting the raw material, actually the material, not the cleaning agent. They're having trouble getting the fabric material enough to be able to put cleaning wipes. I've had disinfectant wipes on my shopping list for the last 2 months and haven't been able to find it yet. So when they're back in store, you can send them in. There was a question about the supply list.
Yeah. So the supply list that was sent home is across the board, whether you are in school or at home?
Yes, the one that was emailed yesterday. I think evening or late in the afternoon. It was text to check the website and a phone call. I believe went home to check the website also. I'm not sure if the phone call went home. I know I got an email and a text. So if you didn't get that email or text, the email had a link. If you press on it and it had the supply list, If you didn't get that, please call school for two reasons. One, you can check the website, but please call school. You could add to make sure that your email is correct. It is so important. Our main communication right now is to parents is through text, email, and phone call. We have a program called Blackboard Connect, and that has to be in our plan, how we're communicating to parents. We have a program called Blackboard Connect. It's a one-stop. We're able to plug into this, what our message is, verbal message, written message, and we can send it out with one click of the button to text messages, phone call, in either computer voice or in the actual administrator's voice or secretary's voice, email, in text, and also it can go out on our social media sites. So that is a huge tool for us, because before we had this, it was you had to do it first through text message and through email, and the problem with all that was as people changed their emails and their cell phone numbers, our system then doesn't get updated if you're doing it individually. Our new program, which is Blackboard Connect, is connected right to our Power Schools, which is our student management, which houses attendance, phone contacts, email contacts. So it's really important for you to have a solid email and a consistent phone number in our system. And that beginning of the year paperwork that has all of the changes, those are important to make sure you have that if you or make a phone call. Okay. Is there another question? Oh, the supply list one. Let's see. Next one. And let me expound on that last question about supply list. Is it for home and for people coming to school? The answer is yes, because we want to be able to have, kids touching their own items. We don't want to have to share amongst classrooms. So if you picture the art teacher doing, I think one of the things that's on there is watercolors. If they're going to 7 classes or 6 classes throughout the day, that's 6 cohorts of kids touching them. And the only other way we can do it is to wipe them down. And there's not enough time to get from class back to your room, wipe them all down, back to the next class, because some kids are going to miss their course. So yes, we want to make sure that all that stuff is in the child's possession. Okay. I think I expounded enough on the distance learning and the in-person instruction. If you have any questions on that, you are more than welcome to throw a question in or call that 751-9399 and I'll give you some individual conversation about that. Or you can call Mr. Diodati at the elementary school. He'd be glad to get back to you and give you an idea of what it's going to look like. And I'm going to say the big word for the entire beginning of this school year, has been since March, and I appreciate people's understanding with this, is flexibility. We can create all the plans we want, and then the kids come, and it may not work. All I can say is, please be flexible. Everybody around the nation logging in at such and such a time in the morning. We don't know what the internet's going to be. We don't know how slow it's going to be. My hope is what we have learned from other states is there is some slowdown. It does get better. Our teachers are we're going to be talking to them on those 3 opening days about being flexible, having something in your pocket or in your hands. While theoretically this asynchronous and synchronous instruction sounds really wonderful, and we're going to be able to do this. What happens when a million kids across New York State are all logged in that first week of school? We'll see what's going to happen. And the hope is everything moves very smoothly. And if not, we'll regroup. Okay, so that's the teaching and learning. Again, if you have any questions, please email me. You can call that 751-9399 number or throw the question into the text box or the chat box, and I'll answer it now. Food service. So in the cafeteria at the elementary school, there's a food line. And the students will go through that food line. There are distance markers on the tray. There's a tray counter. The child puts their tray, and they're going to put their tray right on that marker, and they're going to stand behind that tray. It's part of that beginning training that we're talking about. And as the person in heaven moves down, they move to the next one. There's feet marker on the floor to make sure the kids that are not in line, and the teacher will be making sure that they're up. When they go into the cafeteria, or after they get their food, they're either going to go into the cafeteria and sit down, or they're going to be directed to this alternate site, which Mr. Diodati is working on. I think at the last moment we talked, we're going to be setting up tables in the gym and using, which is right diagonally across from the cafeteria. So the older students will use the gym. The older students that are in the cafeteria with the younger students. The younger ones are going to stay right in the cafeteria. We'll have both areas monitored, and the student will sit down on their seat. They'll be 6 feet apart in all directions. And that 6 feet is from mouth to mouth. It's not from shoulder to shoulder. It's from your central body part to the next person's. You need to be 6 feet apart. When you are, they can sit down, you take their masks off, and they can eat. They're going to be asked to stay seated. Thank you. That's the fun part of being live. As we all know, if you've been in meetings on these Zoom meetings, the fun part is we're live, and all sorts of things happen. I'm in my office, the phone can ring, people can walk in. My pets aren't here, but if I'm at home, my dogs usually jump into the screen. I've seen teachers, cats, dogs, kids all run into the screen. It's part of our new world of remote living right now. So food service will occur in the cafeteria or the gym. They'll stay in their seats. They'll be asked to stay in their seats, keep everything with them until the teacher comes and picks them up. Then they stand up, put the mask on first, stand up, take whatever garbage they have, walk it over to the garbage. Now, I know they're working on a process for snacks and things like that, and I believe they're going to be getting them while they're going through that line, not being called back up, because we're not going to have any movement around the cafeteria once the kids are in their seats. Food service will also be provided for distance families. In fact, today, our tech department and the cafeteria manager are working on creating a reservation system. So there'll be a spot online where you can click, fill out a reservation form. Here's the meal for the day. The elementary, middle, and high school are going to have the same, at least for the month of September, they're going to have the same menu. It'll be the same menu in school that is out of school. And there'll be a one central location pickup. It's still going to be at the middle school and high school. I'm going to tell you where it is today on August 20th, 9:50. That may change because it's already changed since our last time. We're not using the back of the cafeteria entrance. We're actually going to use the fitness center entrance. It's a little bit bigger for us to be able to spread out a little bit and put tables up. And we'll have a staff member there. There's going to be a short window of time. It's like from 10 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11. You can come pick up your lunch. Lunches are not going to be delivered, nor are they going to be in the community. There's no guidance that says we have to do that. So parents are going to have to come. If they want a lunch at home, they're going to have to come pick up the lunch here at school. They also, besides picking it up, it follows the same charging process that it is at during the school day. So if you are free or reduced, you get free or reduced lunch. If it is full pay, you'll be paying full pay if you come to pick up the lunch. There'll be no transaction of money because I don't want my staff taking any money or anything from it. It's going to be as touchless as possible. So if you're going to be at home distance learning, and whether your child is at home for distance learning or if he or she is home because they can't come to school because of the remote option that they may have to be on if they're sick or have symptoms or waiting for a COVID test to come back. They're not in school during those times. So they can still log on remotely and do the work remotely, and you can still come get their lunch. But there's going to be no transaction of money. You're going to have to preload that system that they have with cafeteria, school bucks. I can't remember exactly what the name of it, but you have to preload that, and the money will be taken from that. Okay, so that's food service. Technology. Every student in the district will be given a Chromebook. Now, just like the plastic shields are at the mercy of the manufacturers, right? With Chromebooks. So the manufacturers, if you're been purchasing anything. There's been a whole different delay and time frame. I told the last group I was on that my wife and I ordered a couch back in March, and we just got it last week. And they said 3 to 4 weeks, and we'd have the couch. Well, it was in a state that was on a total shutdown, and weren't doing anything for 2 months manufacturing-wise, and we just had to sit and wait. We're having some of the same issues with technology, so we are really trying to make sure that every one of our students has a touch screen Chromebook, so they can interact with it by touching the screen. We're using a stylus because the technology programs we're using are going to allow kids to interact with documents with a stylus. And if you've taken a look at that list of supplies, a stylus is on it, along with headphones. There's some really inexpensive ones out there. I've heard there's styluses at the dollar store. The teacher may have an idea of what they're looking at. If the stylus is not on there, maybe the teacher put it in as part of their supply list and things like that. I know there's some really good deals when you buy bulk stuff out there. It just depends on the teacher in the classroom. So you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive stylus there is. Child's going to need a set of headphones. I suggest even if you're at distance learning, you might want to have your child have a set of headphones for their Chromebook, because I think, especially if you have more than one child in the house, they need to distance themselves in hearing too. So there's inexpensive headphones out there. You can get them at the dollar store if that's what you want to do. Grab a couple of them because you're going to go through them, and things like that. Many of the students already have headphones for music and stuff like that. So Chromebooks, we ordered the set of touch screens to make sure every student has them. And the shipping date is October, early October. So that's going to be a problem. So we quickly ordered non-touch screens. So there is, about 70 kids-ish at the high school, middle school that do not have touch screens. The rest of them do. And there is about 200 at the elementary, a little less than 200 at the elementary that will be given a non-touch screen. And once those new ones come in October, we will swap them out so everybody has a touch screen. So the middle school and high school, because we're doing the hybrid model, and the reason we're doing a hybrid model in middle school is because we've been told that those barriers can't be moved. So you can't the child can't take his own barrier around. It's not recommended. And then if you leave them stationary, they have to be sanitized. And you can't sanitize 20 in a matter of change of class. It's just impossible. There's not enough staff around in any school to be able to do that. So the only way to get less kids and social distance in the classroom 6 feet is to go to this AB hybrid model. It's not by any stretch of the imagination ideal. It's the only thing we can do to follow the guidance right now. Many districts around are doing the same thing. So technology-wise, we have ordered the touchscreen ones to replace the ones that are non-touchscreen. They probably won't be in October. High school and middle school, they've already set up time to pick up their Chromebooks. Almost all of them are out. If you're on this call and you're a parent of a middle school, high school person, and you didn't get a touchscreen, or if you're new to the district, you didn't get a touchscreen, please call it a Chromebook, not a touchscreen Chromebook. Chromebook at all, you're going to have to call that 751-9399. We'll get you in touch with technology and set up an appointment before you pick it up. That's been happening. Anyone who didn't pick it up, Mrs. Carmer, the middle school principal or middle school secretary to the principal, has been calling all the parents that didn't pick them up in the middle school and high school and setting up an appointment. Right now, the only entrance you can use to the high school, and that's why we're using the middle school secretary, is the middle school. Our high school entrance, if you've gone by the high school, they've redone the outside to make it handicap accessible. We're in the final stages of completing the secure entrance at the high school. So there will be a wall as you come into the high school, a door, and then you have to be buzzed in to go into the a secure entrance, and then nobody's going to go beyond that secure entrance. There's some chairs in there for you to sit and wait for your child to come to you. Okay. More technology. So we've talked about the Chromebooks. Elementary, we are in the process of getting messages out to any parent who is distance learning at the elementary or child distance learning. We're going to set up appointments to get your Chromebooks to you. Any student that's live and in person, we're not having you pick up your Chromebook prior. That'll be done the first couple of days of school for them to be able to take them home. Because we don't know when we're going to be remote, totally remote, and there's a possibility at any time. A number of positive cases happening. The Department of Health tells me this classroom has to isolate for 14 days. That classroom is all remote for 14 days, including the teacher. They may tell me the entire building, shut it down. They may say to me, close the district for a number of days. If our absentee rate is higher than it normally is, I can't tell you what that number is yet. We're still playing around with it. So if it's so many percentage points higher than it normally is, I may decide we're shutting the building down for the district down, or a building down for 2 days. Everybody's going remote, and we're going to really clean, deep clean, and give a chance for the air to circulate, and then come back in. So that all of those are possibilities. I'm also envisioning, snow flying in January or December. Snow flies. I'm not calling emergency snow days anymore. We're going to remote. So you may get a phone call from me in the morning, say, hi, due to the weather, hi, this is Tim Carter, Superintendent of Wilson Central School District. Due to weather conditions, we are going to be having a remote day tomorrow or today. So that being said, that possibility is all there. I can call remote days for, if we need to deep clean the building, we need to deep clean the district, because of the rate of absenteeism due to illnesses. I've been able to do that all along. We monitor our absentee rate, and if it goes so high due to illnesses during the flu season, we may close. I've not had to do that. We've maintained, we were pretty close a couple times over the last 3 years, but we've never gone over a threshold that we were not able to staff the building, or we weren't able to come in and teach. So if that happens, I may call a remote day. I cannot isolate or tell anybody they need to be home for a period of time. That's the Department of Health based upon code. So we take our direction from the Niagara County Department of Health. Okay, so I'm still in the technology. One of the important things, because we don't know when remote is, once your child is assigned that Chromebook, it's going to have to go back and forth. We're in the process of getting cases for them. All the middle school and high school ones went home with cases. I've also talked about book bags. They make book bags. Mine's in my closet behind me. I should have brought it out and showed you. But it's a regular book bag, but it has a spot in it for putting a Chromebook or a laptop. And there's a strap that holds it down. And then there's still plenty of room for stuff. They're not that heavy. The Chromebooks are very light, and they're going to need to go back and forth. So the students that are coming in person, when they come in the first couple of days, they're going to be given the acceptable use policy along with a letter for their parent to take home. The parent needs to read the acceptable use policy with their child, read the letter, sign for their Chromebook. That letter goes back, and then the Chromebook will be sent home along with the power cord. And like I said, we're working on cases again. That we're at the mercy of our distributors right now and shippers. Besides the Chromebook, we have a number of programs that allow our students to interact with teachers with the documents that teachers have. One is called Kami, Kami, and you're more than welcome to Google Kami for elementary students. You can even do Kami for grade level. There's a number of little videos that kind of show what it looks like. And really all it is an application that works with Google Classroom and Google Suite that allows a student, a stylus or their keyboard, to interact with a document, highlight, color, draw, a number of different things. So that program is going to be extremely useful. The teachers are going to be trained on that one of those first 3 days that they're the superintendent on how to use that program, and they're also going to be trained on how to do the remote camera, clear touch panel, how that all works. We're not going to have any cameras on the kids, other than if they're being asked to go into the little tiny squares in the Google Hangout area. The camera that's in the classroom, the remote camera, is either on the teacher or on where the teacher's projecting from. And many of our teachers, all of our teachers at the elementary school, but many of them are going to use their clear touch panels. And all of our classrooms now at the elementary school have clear touch panels, and we have more and more at the high school and middle school. We're not totally there yet. Within a year, we're hoping to have every room at the high school and middle school will have clear touch panels. It was supposed to be a phase-in project over the next couple of years using our Smart Schools money, but this COVID closure in March has made us speed that along a little bit. We were phasing in Chromebooks, one-to-one Chromebooks, middle school, high school, and the clear touch panels were supposed to be over the next 3 years, and we're just trying to get it out there as much as possible and be able to get these things in our kids' hands. Besides the clear touch panels and the program we're talking about, Candy, and other programs that we're going to be using for remote instruction, we also have a number of families in our district that don't have internet. So we have to come up with an option. So we have purchased a number of hotspots for families that don't have, or are in an area that don't have any Wi-Fi or any Wi-Fi or any ability to get Wi-Fi. So if you do not have Wi-Fi or you do not have any kind of computer hookup in your house, the district has already sent out that message. We have a number of families we have purchased hotspots for. Now, the hotspots only work is if you're near a cell tower. If you're not near a cell tower and you don't have digital cable in your area, that's going to be an issue. We're going to have to really work on that, as a school and as a community. There's probably going, and it's only a handful. Right now, in the survey that we sent out, 96% of the district had usable digital cable or Wi-Fi, or parents had phones with unlimited data and they can use that. Also works as a hotspot. A kid may have an unlimited phone with a hotspot. So those are all options. The only problem we're going to have, we're going to really work it and work in that work process back and forth. If you have no cell tower, if you're in a remote area of the district, there's no digital cable, no cell tower near you, then we're going to have to do this with paper. So I think that's all the technology pieces. I don't have anything. Two other things. I talked about the supply list that went out last night. That's an updated supply list. Kindergarten orientation, we talked about that. I know that the kindergarten team is working on orientation. I heard that the pre-K teacher is also putting a little video together to introduce herself to the children. The after-school activities will not be in session. Before and after-school activities will not be running for the school. I know that there's the Y runs a before and after-school program that is going to run. We have possession of their reopening plan. Mr. Diodati has been communicating back and forth what that's supposed to be looking like, and they're following all of our guidelines for social distancing, mask wearing, and things like that. So I know that program, that before and after school program for the Y, is the only one that's running. Our extracurricular activities are not running because we need to get the buildings sanitized for the next day. Well, the cafeteria and the bathroom nearest the cafeteria where the after school program at the elementary run, we'll leave that to the end of the day or the end of the cleaning cycle, but the rest of the rooms they can be working on it, where the halls, cafeteria. So that's how that's going. There was a question?
Has a decision been made regarding staggered start times for the kindergarten classes on the first day of school?
Yes, we are going to stagger the start times. Not by much. And Mr. Diodati, we had a administrative retreat yesterday. So that's why some of this information is being updated. We kind of went back and forth on a bunch of different items with all the administrators. This is a fluid process. Things are changing. So it is going to be a staggered start. The times were given and are set. I'm not going to give those times out right here, right now. I wrote them down. They're not in front of me. So two things. You can call that 751-9399 number, and Mrs. Vaughn will get you over to the elementary school. Call the elementary school yourself. I know Mr. Diodati gave me times yesterday, but I don't know if those are the exact set pieces. So they're like half-hour staggering times for each kindergarten class. No kindergarten parent is going to go past the front entrance, but we're staggering the start so the classroom teacher can come down to the front foyer. If it's a nice day, it'll be done outside. If it's downpouring, the kindergarten class will come into and stay 6 feet apart and wearing masks, or as social distance as possible wearing masks. Families will, and the kindergarten teacher will greet the class. You'll say goodbye to your child, take pictures, whatever you need to do, and then the kindergarten teacher, along with the aide, will bring the class down to the kindergarten. So we are going to stagger those times. I know they're a half hour apart. So I don't know if it's 9, 9:30, 10, 10:30, and what teachers where. So I know they're doing some final preparation for that. Let's see. I said supply list, orientation, extracurricular activity, technology. We talked about the partitions or the barriers. When can we expect teacher assignments to be sent out? As soon as they're finalized. I think at the elementary it's going to be sooner than the high school and middle school. Right now they're making sure that the classes are even. Again, I don't have a specific date. I can tell you that the general consensus from elementary, middle, and high school principals was the fact that as soon as they're done, they're going to get those assignments out. I would expect sometime next week for them to go out. I think they're at the final stages. I believe that we're going to probably have to have another parent forum between now and the opening of school. I'll probably do an all-parent forum in the evening at some point, because I think we're going to have to just update people specifically on the Department of Health's decision around when a child is sick or is symptomatic, and what has to occur when a child is symptomatic. I want to make sure that I just give as much information as possible about that. Okay, there's about a minute time delay between when I'm talking and when you guys are getting this information, so I'm going to give a second or two. If there are no more questions about the reopening plan for the elementary school, I will sign off. If there are more questions, then I will keep asking them. So if you have them, please keep asking them. If you haven't, I know Mrs. Pavan is in the process of typing that phone number out that I keep firing out in person. So when she finishes that and hits send, I will go another minute after that. And if there's no other questions, I'll sign off. All right, there's a 751-9399 number. It is now 10:12. I'll wait to 1 minute and then end if there's no other questions. All right. I appreciate everyone being here. I want to thank you for your patience, your flexibility. Like I said, this is our third parent meeting for the elementary specific. I had 3 for the high school, 3 for the middle school. Middle school final one is today, this afternoon. That is on the District 2 page, and Monday is the high school. And then, like I said, I've done 1 full district parent meeting. I will also do a parent meeting for any parent that has a child that has an IEP, and kind of give them a brief overview of things that are related to students with special needs. And then I'm expecting probably between now and the opening of school at some point sending out a link to another one of these for anyone that wants to join on for updates. I won't go through the whole plan, but I'll do some updates and things like that. Probably updates to technology, updates to the Department of Health. It won't be an hour and 15 minutes like this one. So I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I appreciate your attentiveness. Have a great rest of your day.